Hello, Bloody Bananas here, and this video is going to be another continuation of the series that we started earlier in this week, where we are trying to climb back to Legend ELO, starting from 1700 as our starting point. And we'll see how fast I can climb back to Legend, which is going to be 3k plus ELO. And by the end of today, which is going to be day 5, we have climbed back to Expert ELO, which is going to be above 2750. So we're making pretty good progress. It's only been 5 days, which is around 25 sets. I actually didn't play one of the set, so I think I did around 24 sets, and we effectively climbed 1,000 points over 24 sets. So definitely very exciting. And this team is one of the teams that I used for quite a bit. If you joined my live stream, you might have already seen it with Froslass Lead and Diggersby, and in the back as a safe swap, and then we have our Nidoqueen as the finisher. Without further ado, let's get into the battles. We have a lot of battles to go through. So my first set today in day 5 was really terrible because I got a lot of water leads. The water type leads are the worst possible lead for this team because they beat pretty much all 3 of my Pokemon. So basically I have to rely on my Froslass to take out those water type leads. My opponent makes a great sack swap here to catch a Shadow Ball on the Mandibuzz, and that pretty much sealed the deal for me because I really don't have an answer for the water type Pokemon, right? I swap into my Nidoqueen, which is also my only answer to this Mandibuzz, which is pretty bad for me. I go for this Poison Fang, and apparently it does not KO my opponent even after the debuff. So my opponent got to another move, which was terrible for me because now I can't get to another Poison Fang before I get water gone down by this Castform. And now I pretty much have no real play here besides attempting go for a sack swap. So I'm counting, it's usually 12 water guns, so they did 8. I'm gonna swap after 4 more, which is right here, but my opponent didn't held on to their energy, so I know that game was pretty much over because I couldn't take out the Castform, right? Alright, next game against Charm Lead. Charm Lead is really great because you have all 3 Pokemon can handle Charm pretty well. So I just swap out after building up to a move, attempting to bait out maybe a ice type Pokemon that they might have in the back. But it turned out they only have a what's this Pokemon? Beedrill? Yeah, Beedrill, which is not a counter to Mandibuzz, and I could pretty much win swap advantage right here. And winning swap could be really good for me because Nidoqueen is such a good counter to the Charm users. I didn't show the first move, and then I showed the second one thinking it could be a drill run, and I think I was in drill run range, but it was just another X-Scissor. But it's so good because I just take out my opponent there. Here, this Clefable is throwing charge move, so I'll let it go, and then I come in with my Nidoqueen, and then they have a Bombasol in the back, so this is pretty much game over. My Nidoqueen can just go for Poison Fang and then just farm down their entire team at this point because I still have that shield remaining. I didn't even throw a charge move because it would be faster for me to just Poison Jab down. Alright, again, another water lead. This is really terrible. And basically I have to take out this Blastoise with my Froslass at this point. My opponent shields. Fortunately, Froslass builds up to the Hydro Cannon a little bit slower than Castform builds up to a Weather Ball, right? So I could barely keep up with my Froslass in terms of energy generation, and we got to the Shadow Ball. So hopefully my opponent does not shield. My opponent does not shield, so I could farm down with my Froslass. But as you guys are gonna see, I think my opponent had a pretty tough line for me right here. Yeah, my opponent had a Froslass, so my only win condition kind of is to go for the Avalanche, get a shield, and make sure my opponent didn't snuck a move through. That way I could get to the Shadow Ball and take out this Froslass. If I could take out this Froslass, I think I definitely had some play in order to win this game. But because I couldn't take out the Froslass, this is pretty much game over for me. My opponent had a Mandibuzz in the back. I tried to build up to a Fire Punch, but I didn't want to stay in there for too long. And I know I lose CMP in the end anyways. So I just decided to swap into Nidoqueen right away and hopefully to take out this Mandibuzz and hopefully make my opponent throw some energy on the Froslass. And let's see. My opponent decides to farm me down, which is smart play, and I lose CMP for sure, so even if we had a move there, we still lose the game. So they had triple counter to my Mandibuzz, and my Mandibuzz was pretty much useless there. Just a little bit unfortunate. Alright, next game. Again, another water lead, which is terrible for me. This is all within the same set, so I basically faced 3 water leads that counters my entire team in a row. And this is really bad, right? But fortunately my opponent didn't shield. Because my opponent didn't shield, I decided to just let it go down and then farm down with my Diggersby. Because Empoleon is also steel type, right? So we could farm down with the Mushots. They're coming with Golbat. Again, I think I explained this before, but Earthquake actually does more damage to Golbat than the Fire Punch. Or more energy efficient, I believe. Because you benefit from stab and it's only single resisted. So we go for Fire Punch for the second one, and let's see what I do here. I think I will farm up a little bit more and then throw this Fire Punch, hoping to grab the shield. Even if I don't, I think I could maybe farm this down. Alright, just go for another Fire Punch because I know my opponent built up quite a bit of energy and I wanted that Pokemon out of there. And then my opponent brings out Sableye, which is actually not that terrible. Because we both have 2 shields. So this is where Nidoqueen really shines. Usually Sableye is a really big counter to Nidoqueen. But because we both have 2 shields, I can just go straight Poison Fang. And they don't shield the first one, which is fine. But eventually they have to start shielding the second and the third one. And what I really want to do is just to debuff my opponent. So that my Poison Jab, even though they're resisted, they're still doing a ton of damage, right? I tried to catch a move, which I was able to, but my opponent makes a smart play to honor charge, and then we simultaneously KO each other with my Mushots and his Shallow Claws. Alright, next up, Zapdos. I have 3 counters to Zapdos. I don't really care if I win swap, basically, at this point. So they come in with Whiscash Safe Swap, which is a pretty solid answer to my Froslass, but it doesn't really... It's okay for my Diggersby if I could catch a Mod Bump, because I don't want the Blizzard to hit me, obviously, right? So I'm counting my opponent's moves. I think there are 2 away, so I'm going for a 5 punch here. Maybe we could grab a shield or actually farm down with 2 more Mushots, so they died with the Blizzard, which is really good for me. And then they come in with the Zapdos. Again, I believe Earthquake is more energy efficient, so I go for Earthquake right away. And then I'm gonna build up. I'm gonna tank this Drill Peck, and then I will farm up a little bit more before throwing this Fire Punch. Hopefully taking out this Zapdos, which we're able to. And then they have a Fire type Pokemon in the back, a Castform. I could really just swap into my Nidoqueen right away. With 2 shields, Nidoqueen pretty much beats anything going straight Poison Fang, right? But I decided to stay in, go for 2 moves, get their last shields, and now I swap into my Nidoqueen, which doesn't really matter at this point because now I can just I survived the Wettable here anyways, right? But my opponent decided to surrender the game. Next up, you guys can see my ELO kind of slowly going up, but eventually we're gonna be expert after these 20 games. Again, Empoleon is really tough. You guys know Empoleon is one of my favorite Pokemon to use in Great League, so it doesn't feel good whenever I face Empoleon and I'm not. If I lose to Empoleon, it usually feels really bad for me. So here I'm gonna go for this Avalanche. I shielded once, my opponent hasn't shielded yet, so we want swap advantage here. But I swap into a Primeape, which was not the best swap. But I didn't really want to get farmed down because I don't have a solid answer in the back. I might as well swap early, right? If I stayed in there, I wasn't going to get to a move before he farmed me down, and that would be terrible for me. So fortunately, we were able to bait a Fire Punch, and then we get another shield with the Earthquake, right? So now we have a little bit of play. I just have to make sure my opponent throws some energy right here, which is really good. And then I come back in with my Nidoqueen. My opponent got to a move before I could get to the Poison Fang. I'm pretty sure we lose we lose a CMP anyways. But fortunately, my opponent had another fighter that's very squishy, so I just go for Earth Power right away and then take it out, and then we can farm down the other fighter. I think that was Welloward's team. So fortunately, they had no shields and were able to take that game. This game, my opponent had a Charizard. So my Nidoqueen is not great against the Stunfisk, so I decided to come in with my Nidoqueen, but I didn't show the Blast Burn, which is a terrible mistake by me. I'm really not sure why I didn't show that. That's just really bad play. I think after that, I pretty much lost the game right there, because I think it was definitely worth a shield right there. And then I go for this Fire Punch for whatever reason. Earthquake definitely does more damage. So now I'm basically using more energy to take out that Pokemon, right? But all I needed to do was basically shielding there. Let's see, my opponent came in with the Stunfisk. I think I still have some play because obviously Diggersby is also a really solid counter to this Stunfisk, right? Basically, farming up, and I want to catch a. I don't want to catch a move. I want to tank this move and then swap into my Froslass. Hopefully, I could beat whatever's in the back. And turned out they had a what's that Pokemon? Castform. Castform farmed me down, so they have a ton of energy. I think my win condition was sneaking a move there because they're 4 away. They're 4 away. So we got massive lag. Here I was very concerned that I was just going to get farmed down. But technically, my opponent win CMP right here, so it didn't really matter. This lag lasted a really long time, but it didn't really matter at the end. But if I snuck him move coming in there, I think I could have won that game. But it still ended up being pretty close, right? Lanturn, I just swap right away because I have 2 solid answers in the back, and then my opponent makes a mistake here, swapping into Nidoqueen, because Nidoqueen is terrible against Diggersby, and there's no reason you should ever go into Nidoqueen against a Diggersby, right? And I just take it out with the Earthquake. I think my opponent meant to swap into Jellicent, but they misclicked. With Jellicent, they would have probably won this game, right? Because they could just maintain the swap advantage. And then, yeah. But unfortunately, we still have pretty good alignment right here. My opponent did build up to a lot of energy, so we have to shield the Shadow Ball. I have to respect that. And then my opponent came back in with the Lanturn, so I'm going to go for a bait because my opponent had 2 shields, but my opponent actually no-shielded the Avalanche, which is a really good call. But then I go for a Shadow Ball, and my opponent still did not shield, and that was a CMP tie, so that was extremely good for me. I tanked the Thunderbolt, and then I swap into my Nidoqueen. Their Jellicent is really low. Basically, I just need to debuff this Jellicent, and then I can just Poison Jab all the way down, even though it's double resisted. And then my opponent ended up surrendering right there because we had a shield. Right? And then next matchup, again, not a great match. It's a interesting matchup. We do outpace if they don't bait with Bubble Beam, or if they don't have Bubble Beam. Then we should get to the Shadow Ball before my opponent gets to their Shadow Balls. So I'm timing, but my opponent swapped before I even got to the Shadow Ball, attempting to catch perhaps, which is good for me. And then I swapped into my Nidoqueen because it's a really solid answer to Obstagoon. I tank the Night Slash, and then I'm barely able to farm all the way down before they get to their next Night Slash. And then I go for this Earth Power. My opponent shields on their Jellicent. This is also really good. And then I barely got to my next Earth Power. Again, very good for me. And I think at this point I actually come in with Diggersby because I thought my opponent was going to throw a blind Shadow Ball. But my opponent actually went for 1 more bubble, and then they got the Ice Beam off, which was not great. They hit for super effective, but I got quite a bit of energy, and then they had a Nidoqueen in the back with no shields. So we're gonna go for the boom, and yeah. And then 1 more rush shot was able to take out my opponent in the back. Next up, we have a Nidoqueen, very solid lead. This team is really solid against Nidoqueens in general. Because we have 2 Pokemon that hard counters it, and then we have 1 more Pokemon that's Nidoqueen as well. So I'm going to shield the first move because my opponent built up quite a bit of energy and it was just Earth Power. And then my opponent threw way too early here. I know this is Poison Fang, so I didn't shield. And then built up even more energy, so I had double Avalanche right here. I'm going to go for the first one. Then they come in with the Whiscash. I go for Avalanche right here. I don't have a great response to Whiscash, so I really hope to get to this move, and I was able to. And then I swap into my Diggersby. I still have a shield remaining, and then I decided to no shield this potential Blizzard because I just wanted to save a shield for my Backmon Nidoqueen, right? Basically hoping that my Nidoqueen can finish up whatever's in the back. And Mandibuzz is just everywhere. I've been seeing so many Mandibuzzes, and it's really annoying because Mandibuzz is really solid against my team. It's definitely a really great Pokemon in this format. It counters Diggersby because we don't have a move that hits it very hard, but I come back in with my Nidoqueen because I know I have the Switch Clock advantage, and basically I just need to chip this Mandibuzz into a Fire Punch range, and then I think I'm in a pretty good spot. And that pretty much made it into that Poison Fan basically got it to Fire Punch range. So I think now all I have to do is come in with my Diggersby. I think I shielded just in case I miscounted, but I knew it couldn't really be a Blizzard, but I shielded anyways. And then I go for a Fire Punch, and then they have the Mandibuzz. I know that I survive a move here anyways, and then they couldn't build up to 2, so I go for the Fire Punch, and then we were able to take out the Mandibuzz. That took a really long time because these Pokemon are just so tanky, right? Alright, next up, Nidoqueen. My opponent swapped right away into Obstagoon. What I should have really done is swap into my Nidoqueen right here. I tried to swap after throwing a move, but I end up just deciding to tank this Night Slash, and I'm going to try to catch the next Night Slash, which I was able to. And now I'm just going to farm down this Obstagoon, and then they come back in with the Nidoqueen. I'm going to farm up. My opponent threw a Poison Fang right here because he only built up to 5. So I'm not going to shield that, and then I go for this Earth Power. They did get an extra Poison Jab, so they're back to 4 or 5. And my opponent threw Poison Jab right away again, which is really interesting play. I tried to build up to the Earth Power, but obviously I did not get to it. And then I actually came in with my Diggersby. I knew this is just another Poison thing, so I decided to not shield. And then I go for this Earthquake right away. I'm not sure why my opponent didn't even build up to the big move. And then my opponent decided to surrender. So maybe he has something like a Lanturn in the back, right? Again, another Nidoqueen in the lead, which is really good for me. This person is going for straight Poison Fang, which is not the worst play because you could play out the 1 shields, and then you could soft lose to a Froslass in the 1 shields. So that's what my opponent does right here, because I'm kind of forced to shield the second Poison Fang, and I'm going to farm up a little bit more. I couldn't really farm down my opponent because he's going to get to another Poison Fang. And then I decided to get the last shield and then swap into my Diggersby to catch a Poison Fang. And then they have a Dragonair coming in, which is not that bad for me. Even after debuff, you can see that Diggersby is an absolute tank. We're able to get to this Earthquake off, and I think we get to the Fire Punch as well. So basically we won the 0 shields, even after a debuff. So this is just how insane Diggersby is, right? And now I'm going to swap right away, and this is pretty much game over because Machamp can't really touch Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen wins this matchup in all shielding scenario. Even if I had no shield right here, I think I still win this matchup. And then they come back in with the third Nidoqueen. They couldn't even get to a move, and then my opponent surrenders. So GG opponent. Next up, we have a Froslass mirror matchup. This is really interesting. You could play this in many different ways, but it's really bad for my backline, so I usually stay in and hopefully to chip it down. But my opponent had a Bibarel, which again counters my entire team. So my opponent already had 2 Pokemon that counters my entire backline. And I swap into my Nidoqueen hoping to take it out before it gets to the Surf, but I wasn't able to. I didn't want to shield because if I shielded, then they're going to come in with the Froslass and then throw the Avalanche. So I would have to give up another shields anyways, right? And then my opponent had a Primeape in the back. So my opponent essentially had triple counters to my Diggersby, which is really smart because Diggersby is one of the best Pokemon in this format, right? And yeah, so my Diggersby pretty much have nowhere to go, and I kind of use it as a third shield right here, catching a nice slash, but I don't think it mattered too much right here. I go for this Fire Punch. I should really throw this Fire Punch earlier to hopefully grab a shield from my opponent, but I doubt my opponent was going to shield there anyways because the Fire Punch does not even KO. Yeah, so this is looking really terrible. We each have one shield, but my opponent is absolutely loaded on the Froslass, so I have to get to a Froslass and a Shadow Ball, and my opponent got to move through, so he already has the Avalanche right here after one more Powder Snow, so that's pretty much game over. Well played by my opponent. I think that was more of a team comp win because I really didn't have a way to deal with the Bibarel and the Froslass, right? Next up, Obstagoon. Obstagoon generally is okay because I think when they have Obstagoon, they usually don't have a backline that beats your Diggersby, right? So I let the first Night Slash go, and then I think I'm going to try to make a catch. But I tried to CMP on the next one, but he did a counter and then threw the move. I wasn't able to even CMP there. That was really weird mechanic, but basically I swap into my Nidoqueen after getting 2 shields from my opponent. I'm going to no shield on my Nidoqueen, and then let's see what they come back in with. It's a Cresselia. Because I had extra energy, I could get to the Poison Fang and then the Earth Power before my opponent gets to 2 Grass Knots. I could actually build up a couple extra Poison Jabs right there, and then I throw this Earth Power to take out my opponent, Cresselia. So this is looking pretty good now. We still have 3 Pokemon remaining. They come back in with Obstagoon, but I did that one extra Poison Jab, meaning that I get to this Poison Fan before my opponent gets to a move. And then my opponent had a Charizard in the back, which is a really interesting Pokemon to use in this format. I don't really... my wiki is not great against Charizard, so I definitely respect the pick. My opponent built up quite a bit of energy, goes for the Blast Burn, but does not take out my Diggersby. And I think my opponent has to try to farm me down, otherwise they're going to die to my fast moves in the back. But I was able to just barely get to this Fire Punch with 1 HP. If they were able to farm me down, they could have thrown double Dragon Claw to win the game. So that was super close. This game they have Ninetales. I swap into my Diggersby right away as my safe swap. And then they have a pretty solid counter in Mandibuzz coming in. So this is not looking great for my Diggersby, and this matchup is going to take forever. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I did 3 Mush Shots, and my opponent did 3 Air Slash. Because some weird desync. And here my opponent did 1 Air Slash, and then he snuck in 1 more Air Slash, even though I only did 1 Mush Shot. Which was pretty frustrating for me at the time, but these inconsistencies happen quite a lot, unfortunately. So here we're not going to shield pretty much anything. We're not going to shield, and I'm going to force my opponent to throw some energy because we're going to get to the Fire Punch. And because my opponent threw energy right here, I can just come in and safely farm all the way down on this Mandibuzz. My opponent did 2 Fire Spins, so I'm going to do 3 Powder Snows and then CMP on the Weather Ball right here. And then we got the shield, and then we got their energy right here, which is really great. And basically we just have to rely on Nidoqueen with 2 shields, hopefully to sweep my opponent backline. I'm going to shield the Weather Ball right there, and I'm looking to farm down. And then they come in with a Melmetal, so I just go for straight Earth Power. And they still have a shield, but it doesn't matter at this point because I'm just going to Poison Jab all the way down. I didn't even throw my Poison Fan to lower the attack because I knew it wasn't really needed at that point. Next up, Froslass, Mandibuzz. Depending on if they have Air Slash, it's actually an okay matchup. So they had Air Slash, so I just decided to stay in here. I go for Avalanche. My opponent tanked it really well, surprisingly. And then I decided to catch a move because they were so low anyways. I caught it on Diggersby, so it's looking pretty good. And then they have a Jellicent coming in. I'm going to go for Earth Power or Earthquake right away. chip it down, and then my opponent goes for another move right here. Could be an Ice Beam. It is an Ice Beam. And then I got off a Fire Punch, hoping to chip it, and my opponent lost track, so we actually got a shield, so that was pretty good. We had to come in with our Froslass here. We shield a Shadow Ball, and then my opponent gave me more farm by swapping to Mandibuzz, and they're now pretty much switch locked with whatever Pokemon they have. So they had a Jirachi, and then I just go for 2 Shadow Balls because I had so much energy to take out this Jirachi, and then basically we still have a shield, so this game is pretty much over for my opponent. And yeah, GG trainer. Next up, we're actually against a streamer. I'm sure some of you guys recognize him, but he's leading a Hypno. I'm gonna go for a Shadow Ball right away on the CMP tie. Hopefully he threw a move, and then we could grab a shield. But my opponent held on to the energy. I tried to swap after 4, which is on sync, but again, the game is not working correctly a lot of times, so I wasn't able to catch it. But I'm going to try to catch a Mud Bomb right here, which I was able to, which is good. It's good when the game is working correctly, right? I think I'm going to go for... My opponent is throwing a Mud Bomb here again, I think. Actually, oh, it's a Blizzard. Okay, I'm really glad we decided to shield that. And then I go for this Fire Punch, and then I can pretty much just farm down this Whiscash, which is really good for me, because I have a lot of energy built. And then my opponent had a Wigglytuff. My opponent got a Charm Through, which is not great, but I have his switch locked in here, so I go for my Nidoqueen and then just farm down. They come in with the Hypno. Fortunately, they didn't get a Confusion through, so that means we could get to another Poison Fang right here. And this could be a CMP tie, and it was a CMP tie, so it was really great for us. It was just a Thunder Punch, and then we're able to take out the Hypno and then just farm down the Whiscash, and then we still have 3 Pokemon remaining. So GG opponent. And here we're playing another really high caliber player. I'm sure many of you guys know him. I was pretty frustrated in this match because something happened that I was very confused about. But here we shield the Rock Slide, which is really good. And then they come in with the Jellicent. So they only did 2 bubbles right there, right? And then even if they snuck an extra move, I swap into my Nidoqueen, and then that was only 4 bubbles. So I'm thinking that can't be Ice Beam, but it turned out to be an Ice Beam. I don't know where the extra bubble came from because I only saw 3, at most 4, but we could go back again. I'm really confused right there. So we go for the Shadow Ball. That was 3, 4. That was 4. I'm really confused by how that happened, but it is what it is. Because if I shielded the Ice Beam right here, it would be in a much better spot. But the thing is, like, I didn't really see 5 bubbles, so I was really confused by where that energy came from. But we're just gonna see what we can do with the Diggersby here. And once you guys see the backline Pokemon, you guys are gonna see how I think the game was kind of lost anyways, because they have really solid answer to me in the back right here with the Froslass. Essentially, my only Froslass counter is my Froslass. So if they have Froslass in the back, and basically they can win this game pretty easily, right? Because their Froslass could just handle my backline after taking out my own Froslass. So good game, Speedy. It was nice playing you. Alright, next up we have Froslass against Melmetal, which is a terrible matchup. I decided to go for Fire Punch right away, hoping to CMP tie on the superpower, but it did not happen. So it was not... I probably should have built up to the Earthquake, so we could grab a shield or take out my opponent. And then my opponent had a Mandibuzz in the back. I noticed how basically the switch timer is very misaligned, so I'm going to try to take advantage of that, which means I'm going to swap right here, and then I'll tank this Foul Play, and I'm going to try to take out this Mandibuzz, because Mandibuzz is really troublesome for my team overall, because it's just so bulky, right? And then right here I think I will shield, and hopefully I could get to my Avalanche. But my opponent swapped into my Melmetal. Again, our switch timer is very misaligned, right? So we kind of expect that to happen, and then they come back in. They were able to farm me down, which is not great. I come in with my Nidoqueen. I will tank the first move, but if they got to the second one, I would have to shield. I actually just try to take out this Mandibuzz, which is also fine. And then that Poison Fang didn't take out my opponent. I gotta learn how much damage it does. But next up, they had a Golbat coming in. I remember that I have quite a bit of energy buildup, at least in Earthquake. So if I could grab a shield, I could actually win this game. So my opponent shielded right here, and then I just swap in to get my Earthquake, and then that's game over. My opponent built up too much energy. If my opponent threw some kind of energy, I think I would probably lost that game. But GG anyways. Next up, we have Froslass Serperior. I have 2 counters to this, so I don't really need to win swap advantage that badly. So they come in with Ninetales. This is a matchup that Ninetales could win against Diggersby if they double shield the Earthquakes and if we don't bait. So I don't like baiting here because a lot of times they just let it go, right? My opponent built up to the Overheat for the second one, so I decided to shield. And then my opponent just went for Weather Ball, straight Weather Balls. So I'm not going to shield this move, and I go for this Earthquake again. Again, if my opponent wants to win swap, that's fine, but they would have to throw some energy against my Diggersby right here. Perfect counting by my opponent. CMP tying me on this Earthquake. And I didn't really want to go down. I don't really want to go down on even shields. And I know that I have 2 counters to Serperior anyways, right? So I come in with my Nidoqueen and then farmed all the way down against the K-Ninetales. And then we do see the Serperior coming in. So I'm going to build up some extra energy before throwing the second Poison Fang, just before they get to their move, and we're able to take it out. And then they come in with a Castform. It takes 6 Ember to get to a Weather Ball, so I didn't really want to swap because then they would outpace my Froslass after a 1 Ember or 2 Ember lead, right? So I just stayed in there, and my opponent tried to build up more energy, but lost track of the energy, and we ended up winning. So that was the last set I did for the day, and as you guys are gonna see, we hit 2762. So that's where you would hit expert, right? So we're basically within striking range very soon to hit legend again. I'm hoping to do it by the end of the week. So I still have 2 more days. If I could finish it, if I could get back to legend within the next 2 days, I would be extremely glad. And I have around 11 more sets to accomplish that. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for the next video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. I will see you guys in my next video with a new team as well. And spoilers, I will have Empoleon in that team because I do want to hit legend again with Empoleon on the squad. Yeah, peace out.